Now on today's video, we're going to concentrate on buffing out the valve covers of the BMW. And this paint has dried now. This is going to be the third day. It should be ready for buffing. But it's always a good idea to leave it up by a heating vent for an extra day if you can. Things I've learned the hard way over 60 years of painting. And no matter what restoration project we work on, I try to do the best possible under the conditions we work under. We have limited resources. We don't have a spray booth. We don't have expensive spray equipment. There's a lot of things we don't have. But one thing we do have is a lot of passion for getting this done and getting it done to the best of our ability. Now this is video V6 of the 3 projects we're working on for Vlad. We're trying to coordinate them around some cold weather, some very windy weather, and it's a complicated thing to do 3 bikes at once, but we're doing our best. We have some little projects to work on today, and I don't know how the weather's going to play out for the rest of the day, so every day's an adventure, and we like it that way. Now, the nice thing about restoring older motorcycles, or even newer ones, every day of your life is different. There's no Groundhog Days. We run into some problems almost every day. We try to solve most of them, but the biggest thing is when we find something worth sharing, we try to share it. And today is no exception. And even doing these modern bikes, making little changes to the styling, the paintwork, the wheels, every day is different. And that's absolutely the way I like it. Time to get down to the shop. So our parts have been sitting up by the heating vent now for an extra day. These are the parts Vlad wanted me to work on first thing, try to get these buffed out so we can put them back on the bike. Now, because we're actually working on 3 restorations at the same time, scheduling the stuff and making sure Vlad gets the parts he needs first, it's always a little challenging, but I think we're up to the task. We're going to work on those valve covers today. So now the issue is going to be, we have enough clear on here, but of course you always have dust in the paint. That's the reason we buff things out. There's little spots like this, but where bolts go, and I don't know if we have enough clear on this yet. The only way I'm going to know on a part like this is I'm going to sand it out with 2000 grit paper and hopefully get we know we'll get the dust out, but get as much of the little spots off of it. And if we go through in any spot, obviously the other choice is we'll have to put more clear on it. But hopefully we can sand this out with 2000 grit today. Now, of course, I try not to leave out any steps. Sometimes the stuff gets redundant, but for somebody new to the channel, they might not know. This is ordinary, the equivalent of Dawn. Ordinary soapy water, warm water better than cold. An old pot, you can use anything really, but soapy, warm water will make this sand out go relatively quickly. Now, the system I developed over many, many years is once the clear is dry, it'll make it easier if you let it dry extra days. The longer it dries, the better. This is 2000 grit, Rhino Wet, red line. This paper sands out, and in conjunction with 8065, that's about as easy as I've ever figured out how to do it. Using finer, like 2500 paper or different compound, the result was fine, but it just took a lot longer to do. This is my first choice. Now, I always like to do one piece in real time so you can see how long it would take. We'll just do this little panel up here. But of course, we got 12, 15 panels, different spots. But it's best on a case like this, just do one spot at a time. And the Rhino Wet, the red line, you can get that off, well, I got it off Amazon, but it's available anywhere on the internet. It's nice if you can have a part that you can hold easy. And in the beginning, I've got to figure out exactly how I'm going to hold this to do each one of the facets. Do them from different angles, do them in a circular pattern, do them any way you want. As long as at the end, the part is flat. And then what that's going to do is it's going to allow the 8065 to do its trick with the least amount of work. And if you don't do this, what happens is you leave out the last step, and the part is always a maybe. And there's always a little bit of dust. Even people that use a spray booth, you have some dust in it. And this always adds that extra final little touch. Now, the other thing that's important, anywhere there's a mountaintop, an example is right here is a mountaintop where 2 things come together. If you start sanding that mountaintop, you're going to go right through, and then we got to put more clear on it. And the idea of this is I don't want to put any more clear on than I have to, because We don't know if this paint is even going to hold up under, and Vlad's a very, aggressive rider, so that engine is going to be at peak operating temperature, I'm guessing, most of the time. Anyway, rather than belabor this is the whole thing is to get the part flat before you ever break out the 8065. And there's plenty of other compounds that work well. I just happen to have stumbled upon 8065, 2000 grit paper, and that just has worked so well for me over the years. And I just heard some good news from Ray, the bike that I restored. It's actually my old race bike, the RD. Won another championships down in Florida, a show bike, the bike show. And so that makes, I think, 4 in a row that he's won. So, very good, Ray. Congratulations. Anyway, again, we're in real time, no camera cuts. This is what I wanted to show. Now, if I can do this without even moving the camera, I want to do this. Let's see if I can get this up here, that you can see what that flat surface looks like. If you look real close right here, and right here, there's 2 little low spots, the equivalent of little baby canyons. We're going to sand some more because I want this whole part to be flat. This is going to be like 2 big diamonds as you ride the bike. You're going to see it from every angle too, so I really want this to be perfect. And I'll just sand this a little bit more until they go away. Now, because I don't want to do camera cuts, just on this part. Then we can go into high speed, but see how it's longer? And this is a time you don't want to be tempted to go to rougher sandpaper. You always think, oh, if I just go down 1,000 grit or if I go to 1,500 or whatever, it's going to go a lot quicker. And you're right. But you're going to save a minute sanding, and that's going to add 10 minutes to the buffing by the time you get out the scratches, where this paper doesn't leave deep scratches. And we'll do a little bit of buffing in real time. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's better to spend the time with the sandpaper and soapy water. And that is the whole trick when you want to have a show bike winning finish, super, super high quality. This is the only way I know to do it. It never comes out of the spray gun. You got to do this step. And this is the one that it gets a little labor intensive. And so you spread it out over more days. You don't try to do it all in one day. That's the secret I use. Or drink more coffee. Anyway, it looks like we got one of them completely out, one more to go. And this one here should go. You got to just resign yourself to the fact this just takes time. And by putting one in real time, then when you see the fast forward, you'll know how long this actually took. This is one facet of what I call a facet, one shining surface, and when it's buffed, that light is going to come across and reflect off this like a diamond. It actually is like a diamond ring. Okay, we got them. So let me just show this. And that really came out. When it's flat like that, the whole part is flat, we'll be ready to buff. So even in fast forward, this is a lot of labor, and the sandpaper, you should, with this fine grit of paper, it does wear out very quickly, so always make sure you have enough paper before you start the job. The other part of this is the detailing. Now, once everything is all flat, then I'm going to wipe it down and look for little imperfections. Now, this part had a few, and I needed to take a sanding block, a little hard sanding block, and work those areas little by little by little. And this was a couple hours of work from start to finish. But the result is, and it's always about the result. It's never about how long it took to do it for me. Is it perfect in the very end? That's what really floats my boat. Now, I try to avoid the mountaintop areas. I don't need to do down in the groove where the spark plug wire goes. This is the palm sander that Harbor Freight sells for under 20 bucks. These are under $5. You want to change the pad pretty much every day or every time you're going to have new compound. The pads are cheap enough. It pays to have a new pad on every time you start buffing. This is the 4CR product. We got a brand new tube of this. It shows you the grit level on it, and you can reference that against Meguiar's or any other polish to cross-reference. Just some good, this is all in fast forward, some good solid information you can use. The 8065 There's a lot of different people have told me you put it on the pad, not the part not the pad. I put it on the pad, the part, put it on your underwear, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it matters anyway when you're doing this. It may matter when you're doing the hood of a car or something. But on these little parts, and what's good is to go back and forth, because what happens, your arm will get fatigued in a relatively short amount of time. And I like to concentrate on one little area, then do the whole part, concentrate on the area that needs a little more, wipe it down, go back and forth, back and forth. There's no really set way to do this. It's whatever way you're comfortable with. And I have found that I have an amount of hours that when I was younger, of course it was more, an amount of hours, and then I just not having as much fun as I normally am. So, and in this case, it was a one valve cover day, but in the end of the day, that valve cover was perfect. And as opposed to getting two of them done, and it looks like a mouse bit them or something. It's back and forth, back and forth. The 80-65, if you follow this system that I have, and I'm not trying to take credit for it or anything. You just go back and forth, back and forth. This way I'm using my knee to support the part so I can put a little more pressure on, and I've got my arm in a different position, so I'm using a different muscle set so I can get a little more in the course of a day of work. I can just get a little more bang for the buck this way. But no matter how you do it, it's really irrelevant. But I like to wipe it off and then look for spots that need a little extra. Just keep looking and be fussy. Look at it. Now there's a couple of little spots here I wanted to address. And it's just, you can't explain to people. You just have to be fussy. And when I've had people in the shop that I was showing how to do this, and they watch it, the comment I always hear is, wow, it took you forever to do this. Yes, it does. And when you paint a car, it's a whole different thing. You spray it, you put it in the oven and walk away. I keep looking at this back and forth. Back, and I see a spot I missed. And then I look again, I see another spot I missed. But being fussy is the whole name of the game here. And when you're done, now you've got something. All of the bikes I restored that are in the garage, when I go out there, I don't feel the pain of buffing them out, but I know I have them. And because I'm 77 years old, I have them for the rest of my life. And then I look at the quality, and still, again, I'm looking for some part I might have missed. You never know. And back and forth. And if I'm really, really fussy and I have time, Karen happens to walk down, I'll have her look at it and say, what do you think? And because she's a trained artist, and she will find things sometime that get by me. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a part right now that was worth putting the hours in. Now, I couldn't take it outside today because it was raining, but here, this is under fluorescent lights. And when you see the fluorescent lights show every little mistake. The sunshine lets you get away with stuff, but that is a nice piece of work. This was a long day. We got one done. One is still ready to be done, but so many parts, so many things to do. But again, we're trying to prioritize them, and this is about all the energy I have today. One part, and we'll try to get this one done next time we shoot video. Now, one of the things I learned a long time ago, and I'm passing on what I think is good information, my dentist told me I'd be sitting in the chair and he'd be doing his thing. And he said, the way you can tell if you're getting good dental care, good dental care takes time. Well, this takes time. This took up a whole work session to do one part. But here's the thing in a nutshell. Is it worth it? Well, I think it will be to Vlad. We'll get the other one done. And I learned never try to rush. If you only have time to do one, don't rush it through and think you get two or three. Never worth it. Never worth it. In the end, you're always sorry you did it. And when Vlad puts this bike together, he should have a real piece of jewelry. And we'll pick this up on tomorrow's video. Now, when this day was over and we had supper, I came back down to the shop. I wanted to show Karen this part. She looked at it from every angle under fluorescent lights, and she was just blown away. She says, wow, that is really some nice piece of work. Anyway, not trying to toot my flute here. Anyway, my collection of bikes that spans one every 10-year period, and I have restored all of them, or even a modern one, the MT-09. I've done my personalizing. I love riding them every day in the riding season, which is about 9 months a year, maybe 8 months. And the restoration work that I do, I put my heart and soul into it. It takes a lot of time. It doesn't jump out of the can. And I try to pass on everything that I've already learned and anything new I learn. And my friends, to a person, I think they all appreciate it. And thanks so much for watching.